Hello there, it's Carrie Rhoades here. Welcome back to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making a card where the shaker in this card is actually part of this scene. It's a super cute card featuring this Ice Friends stamp set. This is a large stamp set with so many fun little critters on ice skates and even this bear playing hockey. It has a nice big pond that you can stamp and die cut out or just use the die, which I'm going to do on the front of this card today. Here you can see all the images colored and die cut out with the coordinating dies. And then we're also going to be bringing in some other things from the latest holiday release, the Embossed Edge Hills and Slopes die set. And then this new triangle tree stack. I'm going to be doing a fun little technique with these, and that is with this background stamp right here, Retro Snowflake Wrap 6x6 background stamp. And for my sentiment, I'm bringing in probably one of my favorite things from the latest release. I've used it a lot, the Mini Winter Greetings die set. The letters are going to cut out individually and layer onto those shadow layers. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started creating our scene. I have two pieces of cardstock here that are approximately 5 inches by, actually it's like 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. So I'm just gonna have a really small border around my scene when I put this onto my 5 by 7 card base. So you can see I'm using that really rounded hill on one layer and then the pond, and then I just need a little border to kind of layer up. So I'm taking that off the bottom, but that piece where I'm just cutting off the bottom, I'm going to use that for my most background layer. You'll see how it all layers up in a minute, but I'm going to save that pond piece. I can use that for something else later, and I will save that or arch piece right there for something else. Okay, so this is going to be my background of my card. Then I'll put on my pond. Then I can add on that front little layer. So it's going to layer up just like that. But I need to kind of add to this, right? I want to do a sky on the background, and so I'm going to do a little ink blending to bring that to life. And I want to make sure I don't go below that hill because that part's going to be my pond, and I don't want there to be any ink on the background of my pond. So I am using some Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink and a Blending Buddy brush to put that beautiful pink ink onto my paper, and I'm just doing a really light dusting. And then I'm going to come in from the top with peacock feathers. These are going to overlap a tiny bit, but there's not a lot of ink blending that goes on here because they're added onto this cardstock so lightly. I didn't want a really dark sky. I wanted it to be light and very wintry looking. And while I have that Blending Buddy brush out, I decided to add a dusting of that peacock feathers on the edge of my slopes and around the edge of my pond. Now you can see I have one spot where it's like really heavy on the ink. That's just an opportunity to place something there to cover it up. All right, so also part of the scene building is to add a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of snow, and this is going to be really subtle in my background. This is Pixie Dust by Ink on 3, and I just put it onto this window sheet and then use my scraggly little paintbrush to kind of drag it off the edge, and it creates a really fine mist of shimmer. Okay, so now we're going to build the shaker. I need to cover up my pond with a window sheet, and I'm using some liquid glue to do that. And then I need to create the space for those shaker bits to be contained within. So I am putting some foam tape around the pond, and this is where my shaker bits will go. I want to make sure that the edges of my foam tape there are going to touch so the shaker bits can't, escape when the card is shaken. Okay, so now I'm adding that ink blended background to my 5 by 7 card base. You can see the little tiny white border around the edge. And for my shaker bits, I'm using these Cave Crystal flat shaker embellishments. Confetti embellishments, yeah. And I put down a little bit more than you saw there. I really wanted this to be rather full. I just didn't want my little critters to feel like this pond might be melting and they would fall through the ice. I wanted it to be very solid. So there's the shaker. It's so much fun. I feel like those shaker bits are the perfect color for this card. All right, these are those triangle tree stack dies. I pulled them out, and then as I was laying them down to this really fun green cardstock, I decided I'm going to stamp that. So I brought in the retro snowflake background stamp, and I am going to emboss this. So I treated my paper with some anti-static powder, then I inked up my background stamp with some clear embossing ink, pressed my paper down onto that. You can see I'm taking the paper to the stamp and pressing that down. It's really hard to see because it's clear ink, but you can see it revealed as I pour on that clear embossing powder. And then it's time to melt all the things. So I'm using my heat tool to melt that powder. It's going to be raised up and shiny, but fairly subtle. And I think it adds something really cool to these trees. I absolutely love how they turned out. So I'm going to cut out 4 trees, but in the end, I actually end up cutting out 6 trees. So there you can see them taped and ready to go through the die machine, and here they are die cut out. I think these are really fun, really simple trees, and they really just seem to go in this scene. So now I'm just laying everything out, deciding where I want it to go, and I needed to trim down the height of my biggest tree a little bit. It makes it look more like the other tree on the other side, but it still is a tiny bit wider. So I'm going to go with the fact that it's a little bit different than the other one. But I could have just cut 2 of that second to the largest tree that I'm using. So I have the largest trees set on top of the hill and then the smaller trees behind the hill. And as I was putting this together, I realized I think I need another tree to really fill this out, just add to the scene. So I'm going to make 2 more trees, and they're going to be smaller than all the trees I have on here, just to fill it in a little bit. But I still wanted to make sure I left it opening in the center for my sentiment, which I will add here momentarily. So there they are. In the pictures at the end of the video, you can really see the texture on the trees more so than you can see them as it's just laying there in the background, and it's so pretty. It has the shine of the embossing powder. I love them. All right, so now we're going to add our little critters. I had colored these before I knew what I was going to make for the reveal video of when this stamp set came out, and I just had yet to play with them. So I had to design my card around the colors that I chose to color these for the reveal video, and I'm really happy with this color selection. I've been using it quite a bit this season. I just really am into the soft colors this year. So I love the pink for Christmas. Love it. All right, so I added a sub-sentiment here already that says skating by to say hi. And then for my main sentiment, it's going to say holiday greetings. I'm using a piece of rip and stick paper here. So it's double-sided adhesive. I'm putting it on the back of this white glitter paper. And then all my letters will have adhesive already on them, and they'll more easily stick down to the shadow layer. Now, one of our designers, Lauren Taylor, she did this right here when all the letters stuck into her die. Like when she die cut it out, the letters stayed in the die, and then you can just press the 2 together, the die to your shadow layer of paper, and then the letters stick to it, and it's like, boom, done. So I had to try it because all my letters stuck in except the S on greetings, but I kind of pushed it back in, and it was just a breeze to get this out, a dream. So if your letters are sticky on the back and they stay in the die, you should totally try this. It was amazing. I was so happy how fast that it went. And they were all lined up on top of that. So, all right, I'm gluing those down so the trees are a little bit higher than my greeting, and I love the pink background on these. I had ones already ready to go with like a soft teal color, but it just wasn't right. I ended up switching it to pink and love it so much more. Okay, so now I brought in another stamp set just for the snowflakes. This is the Freezin family set. I have used this stamp set so many times. I love it. And I love that it has all those snowflakes in there. So I went in and stamped some snowflakes in and around my trees. This is a little bit scary because, yeah, I've pretty much completed the card and now I'm going to stamp on it. What if I mess up? Well, there's dies to cut out all of these snowflakes. So if I did mess up, I could have stamped them on another piece, die cut them out, and stuck them down that way. But luckily, it was successful and everything turned out, and I love the addition of these little snowflakes in the sky. It really adds just a little something, like, it's kind of like the embellishment on this card. All right, so on the inside, I had more stamped images left over, so I'm adding that already stamped pond, and I added a little shading to that with some Copic markers. When I was coloring out all my critters, I decided the fox needed to go on the inside, and then there's another sentiment I'm going to add on there that says, have an ice day, and then another little treat I'll add in there. So you've got another little scene on the inside, and I think it's just really fun to have your inside scene kind of go with the outside scene, and it adds that special extra touch that maybe not all store-bought cards have, right? Yeah, and my husband loves it when I put stuff on the inside of the card, so that's for him. All right, look at those trees. Aren't they amazing? I just love how they turned out. So that is my shaker card where I made the shaker part of the scene, and I think it just is really fun. So thank you very much for stopping by and letting me share this card with you today. I hope that you are inspired to make a shaker. They're my favorite kind of card, and I will see you all again very soon on the next video. Happy stamping! Bye!